Okay, I just watched this show called Bad and Crazy. I'm on like the first episode. There's 12 episodes all together. They're about an hour apiece. Let's just get it. So we start off with this dream sequence, right? This guy named Rio is like drowning in the water. Then they show him fighting in this kickboxing underground tournament. He's getting his ass whipped. Then he's like drowning in the water again, but then he wakes back up in his own bathtub in a suit. So he's going through it right now. So he goes out to the parking garage, right? So he can check on his car. And all of a sudden, he sees his car's all fucked up. He's thinking to himself, was he drunk or something? He's thinking to himself, hey, who smashed my car? So they go to the police officers and the surveillance tapes. It turns out he was the one jumping and kicking his own damn car. I'm like, the fuck? He's thinking to himself, like, man, I got 7 more months of payments on this shit. Then we find out he's actually an inspector at this, like, the police department. So before he even gets in the office, this chick gets all in his face. This chick by the name of So Lee. So she's hounding him about some random case. Then we find out they actually used to go together like 2 years ago, but they broke up. And on top of that, he's her supervisor and shit. So she gets mad. She ends up giving him this judo flip and then walks back in the office. I'm like, what? So they gotta do this debriefing on another inspector by the name of Charlie. And apparently the situation was he was supposed to meet up with somebody, but the dude ended up getting killed. He was supposed to meet somebody in a condemned building, but the dude gets tossed off the top. We were like, who the hell just tossed him off? Then the other guy looks down and shit, and then he goes up and chases him. Dude ends up stabbing the inspector in his ribs or whatever like that, but then the guy tries to run. And then he shoots him in his leg, but when he shoots him, he accidentally falls off of the rail, and he ends up getting done deal dead as shit. So they don't know whether they want to convict him or not or whatever like that. But it gets to the point Ryu talks to the commissioner and it feels like they're just fucking with him. I don't even know what to say about that part of the case, but it gets to some more crazy after this stuff. Then we got this situation with another officer by name Officer Tay, like on the other side of town. He sees this little girl putting up a poster, but a poster has her missing mom on the picture. So he goes to the police station to talk to officers about trying to find this missing lady. It turns out the officer's already on the case. Officer by the name of Do Kim. He tells him the situation, he's like, look, man, this lady is a junkie. She's been in and out of rehab. She just got out of jail. She was in there for like a year. But it's that particular officer's case, so he's got to decide to look for her and whatnot. So right at the back, you're thinking to yourself, Tay not gonna let this go, right? He's not. Then we got this scene with Ryu. He goes to the spa and he's just chilling in the spa. And all of a sudden, this motorcycle dude comes in with a helmet. He just comes in the spa and starts kicking his ass. He beats him up and then uppercuts him in the pool and shit. I'm like, the crazy thing is eventually he gets up. He's arguing with the labor dude about trying to get his money back, trying to get a refund. He's like, man, I got assaulted in here. Then they're looking at the camera footage. They said there's nobody in a motorcycle helmet that came in here. So is this guy real or is it just all in his head? But then there was this one situation where he did have a band-aid on his nose, and I'm thinking to myself, where'd he get that scar from? Maybe it was his own doing, who knows? Meanwhile, we go back to Tay. He's talking to the other officers, thinking to himself like, yo, what should we do? Officer's like, man, just mind your own business, man. So Tay's walking the little girl back to her house or whatever like that. Turns out she lives with her grandma. And the grandma told the little girl that her mom is on vacation. She's like in the United States or some shit like that. But we all know that's bullshit. So Tay's a good officer. He's going to do everything he can to try and find his mom. Or her mom. So he finds out some information about where the apartment is or where she used to stay at, right? He talks to the local security guard, but he ain't really no help because he's like, look, I gotta watch after all these goddamn tenants. I ain't got time to watch after one. And then this one lady is looking at him, seeing him. He's like, oh, you looking for Miss June A? Her apartment's over here. So he gets to the door, he's knocking on it, nobody's answering and shit. So he ends up finding a locksmith to try to break down the door. Apparently that same security guard found it from saw it from a distance. Pretty sure he called somebody. So he goes in the apartment, he doesn't really find anything, finds a bunch of pictures, right? Then he starts smelling chlorine in the bathroom. He digs into this little drainage ditch and he sees hair with blood on it. We're like, the fuck? Then Officer Do Kim comes out of nowhere. He's like, look, I found some evidence. And then Do Kim kicks Tay in the tub and just starts stomping the shit out of him. I'm like, what the fuck, man? So while all this is going on, Ryu heads back over to the office. He gets a call from somebody named Mr. Ju, Joo. He comes through styling in this like Hulk Hogan looking Porsche. Yeah, it's like red and yellow. And after he talks to him, he starts walking into the office. And that's when we find out he's about to be the new commissioner of the daggone organization. The police department, you know what I was trying to say. So the old commissioner's talking to Ryu and he's got an idea. He's going to set up a meeting for him to come to his parents' yogurt shop, the Ambassador dough. How's he have connections like that? Beats the hell out of me. So I guess he's going to remind them they were buddies back in middle and high school or some shit like that. So the ambassador ends up meeting up with Ryu. He's really a more renowned cop than people give him credit for. But you wouldn't know it because all the time he comes off as a goofball. So they set up this little thing so he could come to the ambassador's daughter's birthday party or something like that, right? Then we found out the store that he's in is actually his mom's store, but his brother runs it because his mom was actually supposed to be in the hospital because she had back problems or something like that. The thing is, he was trying to make sure that she got better, but also because he actually paid for the daggone surgery. You could say Ryu's the breadwinner of the family. So we get back to this situation where Tay's all fucked up, and he ends up trying to go back to the house again. He's looking around, he doesn't really find anything, but we see this teddy bear. And we see that the bathroom's been spick and span, cleaned up, right? So while he's still digging, the lady that helped him earlier, that helped him figure out where the apartment was, she comes barging in and then she tells him to come to his apartment, to her apartment. So then as she's about to give him details about what she heard over in the apartment like a while ago, she kept saying she heard screaming and then she heard banging. Then right when she was about to tell him something, all of a sudden the phone rings. After she answers the call, she's talking about whatever, and then she goes into the bathroom. So while Tay's still waiting, all of a sudden he hears glass break and then she starts screaming. She's like, ah! So then Tay goes to the bathroom and is like, hey, you okay? And then she freaks out. She's like, ah, what are you doing to my house? Rape. He tried to kill me. And then the security guard pops up out of nowhere. I'm like, she helped him figure out what the lady is. Why all of a sudden would she pull this shit? Well, you're about to find out. Apparently, Ryu had met up with Do Kim earlier, and he's trying to figure out why he beat the crap out of his subordinate officer. He's like, yeah, I get this your case, but don't you think that was a little extreme? He's like, yeah, we do things differently down here. So at the back, Ryu's starting to smell some bullshit. So they end up taking Tay down to Ryu's police station. So after Tay gives the confession to Ryu's best friend, Cho, Cho's like, look, man, we're going to get the full story. Don't even trip out this. So meanwhile, Ryu is actually in the hospital talking to the lady. And she's saying all this other stuff. She can't even get a story straight about what happened in there. So Ryu smells bullshit. He's like, He calls up Do Kim and says, look, man, if you're going to get an actor, make sure she can get the lines right. I'm like, oh shit, he already caught on to this shit. I'm like, that's crazy. And then he's telling her, he's like, look, you know you can get locked up for this shit. You know you ain't got your story right. She's like, for real? Like, nigga. See, Do Kim did this on purpose so he wouldn't be seen beating up Tay again. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what does he have to hide? Why is he going through all these extreme measures to stop Tay from searching the damn apartment? I smell some fishiness around here. So then Ryu gets back home and he's sitting in his chair and his computer trying to figure out all this shit, right? Then all of a sudden the motorcycle dude comes back again, starts beating the shit out of him in the chair. I'm like, what? Then he runs away from him talking shit. So then Ryu starts chasing him. He's like running after him while he's on his bike. And then he's thinking to himself like, wait a minute. I'm about to come back and run him over. And he starts hitting him with his own bike. I'm like, what the fuck? The whole sequence is crazy, but basically it was a dream sequence. So then we get to the situation where Tay goes to the apartment one more time, but they're cleaning out everything in the apartment. But all he wanted to get was this teddy bear. Because I think he wants to get the teddy bear to his little girl. So now he's got to go out to the apartment where the dumpster is and start digging through all this little trash to try to find it. He ends up finding the teddy bear. And I guess he's about to go take it to the little girl or whatever. Now it's time for Ambassador Do's party. He got all these dignitaries there and whatnot. Ryu's there to greet the ambassador. And also Inspector Do Kim is there too. So we find out Ambassador Do and Do Kim are like real close or whatever. I'm not sure if they're like brother-in-laws or something. I don't know what the situation is with that. So Ambassador Do's daughter is getting sleepy or whatever like that. So he tucks her in, you know what I'm saying? She's going to bed, right? So then he comes back down the steps. And the ladies are talking downstairs with his wife and friends or whatever like that. And he sees the same type of bear downstairs and he starts freaking out. And I'm like, what's wrong with him? Well, it turns out these type of bears have cameras in them. So we flash back to this scene where Ambassador Do was drunk. He was just like flying around with a robe on and shit. And he's in this apartment. Now, what apartment is he in? That's right, Jun A's apartment. We don't know what took place there, but she was lying there in a puddle of blood. I'm like, oh shit. And he's just like spazzing out inside of the apartment. And right on the other side of the room was the damn teddy bear recording that shit. So Tay is walking around with this bear right now, not realizing he has actual footage inside of the bear. Until some guy in a skateboard accidentally runs into him, he ends up dropping the bear. He looks at the nose is popped open. He's like, oh shit, what is this? Pops the disc out the nose and it's a flash drive. Huh, right what he should have stumbled on. That's what he needed. So he ends up going back to his apartment and he's about to turn on his computer, but right before he's about to load it up, Do Kim pops out of nowhere. And now we officially know why he's been trying to hide this damn evidence. So then he starts beating the shit out of Tay for real. Tay tried to hide the flash drive, but Do Kim ends up getting it and he puts it in his pocket. So at this point, he's got the evidence. He might as well just destroy the shit, right? But somehow he just keeps it. Well, anyway, he starts pouring kerosene around and he's going to burn this shit the fuck up. But I guess he has second thoughts about pouring it on Tay. Meanwhile, we got Ryu driving in the back seat or whatever like that. Next thing you know, he's parked in front of this apartment building. And the motorcycle guy comes out of nowhere again. He starts fucking with the car. He ends up whipping his ass again. But then he starts helping him. He drags him all the way up to the top of this daggone apartment complex. And he points him in the direction of this door. All of a sudden, this big ass explosion comes out of nowhere. The motorcycle guy's like, yeah, you gotta go and apologize. He's like, apologize for what? To who? And then he throws him into the building. And he sees Tay lying there on the ground. Then fire and boards collapse in front of the door. So you think to themselves, how the heck are they gonna get out? The motorcycle guy throws a chair through the window and they're gonna have to jump out the window. But considering they're about 3 or 4 stories down. So Ryu's got no choice. He grabs Tay and they jump out the window and they end up landing on this damn car. And then the motorcycle guy jumps out late. You're thinking to yourself, like, is he real or is he not? Or is like Tay doing all this stuff, Ryu doing all this stuff himself? It's like, what's the deal? So the final scene in the first episode, the motorcycle dude takes off his helmet, but we don't know exactly who he is yet. But Ryu's looking at him like he knows exactly who he is. And that's how the first episode ends. I'm like, yo, is it bad and crazy? You goddamn right it is. It lives well up to the title. I'm about to catch the other 12 episodes and we'll get it popping. Well, it's 12 episodes altogether, but you know what I meant. Bad and Crazy on Netflix. Check that shit out immediately.